Okay, cool. Hey Con, how are you? Thanks again for waiting for so long. Hopefully you're safe during this whole COVID-19 thing or wherever you are. Uh, I hope you guys are safe and doing well. Anyway, so I was able to review your fight, and off the bat, the biggest thing I noticed was back a lot, and there doesn't seem to be a plan after you move back, and this guy's kind of just running at you. So off the bat, generally, what I tell players is if the guy's going straight at you and he seems like he gains a lot of momentum and a lot of his pressure and a lot of his points come from running straight at you, I like fighting those guys right on the line, which you do kind of during the second round. But I think there are some adjustments we can make, right? So let's get into it. Okay, well, here we go. So I like the aggression here. That's good. Just in the future, by the way, I think a safer move almost is you're leaning pretty far back. I don't know if you have any scouting information on this guy, but if you do, well, granted, let's say you don't have any information. If you do have information and you already know this guy likes to run in at you, then the thing I would say for you is after you do something like this, a fast kick, is I would be expecting instead of going fast kick and then scooting backwards, I'd fast kick and then close because a lot of his hype and a lot of his momentum and power is coming from pushing you backwards. So I would to prevent that, you just make sure you're going forward at the same time to make sure you're not getting pushed back. Turn. Okay, there you go. Pretty good turn, man. Oh, ah. So I don't know how it is in your country, but in the U.S. or internationally, usually when the ref is giving a kali or I mean sorry, a gumjung, usually we're walking. I would take it as I'm walking back into the middle. So that way, see how this guy's like sneaking off around you on the side. You don't really need to let him do that. You can position yourself here, on the side like here, and then you'll still get the gumjung, but at least you're not at the edge of the ring. So that's one of the small things I noticed. That's try for a punch. Also, if you stay, I don't know if you have this, but if you don't have a left hand punch, I would highly suggest if you're going to be fighting right leg in front, is that you develop a left hand punch because the threat having a left hand punch, what it does is if he it creates a threat. If he comes in and he mistimes you or he judges wrong, there's a punish like an absolute point punishment for him guessing wrong, which is you punching him in the chest and getting a point. So if you like fighting with your right leg in front, which I like to do personally, I like fighting with my right leg in front. Is you need to have that left hand punch as a threat, or a left leg front axe kick, something that it becomes a direct threat where if they go off the line and you choose to go in and you choose to intercept them as they're coming in at you, that there's a direct punishment for doing that, and that a lot of times will stave people off from coming in at you whenever they want. Oh, yeah, like right there. Wait, hold on. I think there's no sound coming from your video. Let me check on my. Oh, nope, wrong one. Yeah. Hello. Okay. There we go. There we go. Now there's some sound for you. This part's actually not too bad when you're navigating this. After something like this though, so presenting at you, you try to punch, push, push. All right. So after a series like that, you now know that he likes to get all of his points coming off of a push. And so when I'd be sparring this guys, as soon as you get to a situation like this, see how your hands are down and like they're not you're sliding in at him, but your hands aren't very active. In order to get rid of someone like that, you need to constantly be taking his hands off of you. And what that does is if he's pushing on both sides and suddenly one hand gives out, usually that hand like that arm collapses. And so as he's pushing on you, you need to be like actively removing his hands and fighting to get inside. So that way you can get to a point where I go in some of my previous videos where you get to where your biceps, this upper part of your arm, is like you want this directly under his armpit, and so he's kind of stuck like that, like even further back, and so that way he doesn't have any leverage to push you backwards. So ideally in this situation, you want to be getting your hand from here. See it how it's like up right now. I think he's already got the push on you, but something you can do from here is use your hand and like physically push his arm down out of the way, or take your hand out from there. I'd try and push it down, or swipe it, like literally just swipe it to the side. And once you do that, then you want to take your arm and have this part of your arm here directly down here, and then the rest of your arm looks like this. Boom. This is that's like getting all the way in the clinch. Is when you get to that situation, even on one side, it makes it extremely hard for him to use that arm to like leverage to try and get some space. I cover it in some of my other videos. I don't know. I don't have the specific one in mind, but that's something to keep in mind. Is you want to get to that lockdown position, so that way he can't do this like small series of kicks against you. So I do like your kicking back. A lot of times people will just accept the push and then get kicked. I like that you're returning fire against him. So I also like that you're applying forward pressure, but you're also not keeping the space he's giving you for free. And so what I mean is, right here is you slide in. After you slide in, he slides back. Okay, so like that's pretty cool. And then you go for it again, and then he like lets you have this real estate for free, and you didn't keep your ground. So he kind of knows this guy's motioning at me, and he's I wouldn't say scared, but he's afraid to hold ground against me. And so that kind of gives him even more of a confidence boost that like when I go against this guy, he's probably gonna go backwards. And because he knows that, he can throw techniques the way he's been doing, where he's just throwing and kicking and going forward and kicking, going forward, kicking forward. And he knows that there's probably not going to be too much of a really strong response going back against him. So he's free to throw all of his weight at you, and it's your job to catch his weight and to dodge the kicks at the same time. And so when you're motioning like that, if someone gives you free real estate, for the most part, you want to be keeping that real estate. That was a good job by you, though. I don't know if you set that up by your two motions going forward. If you did, you fooled me. So good job, man. So right here, motion, and then trying to go right away. That's good. I think you can do that at the same time. You can still do that while holding your ground, but overall, that was good. Yeah. Also, I feel like you need. I don't know if you've thrown it before, but it doesn't seem to me like one of your base defenses is a cancel. I don't know if that's because you're smaller for your division, or it's something you don't train, or specifically against this guy you didn't cancel. But against open stance cut, I cancel all the time. I'll cancel, and then sometimes I'll throw like a face kick after, just to let the guy know that if you do that again, I'm gonna try and kick you in the face. Or you can throw that like Husseini does. He does a cancel into a punch. Like that's an option, especially because this guy likes to go front leg a lot. And then, like I said, if you don't have a left hand punch, I feel like you need to develop a left hand punch, especially if you're gonna be fighting in this kind of a stance. Nice try. Nice, good offense there. In the round one. Okay. Like a majority, I would say, a majority of the time you're running back, you're going backwards, and it's not good because one, it seems like that's kind of his game plan, is like to kind of bully and to like throw his weight at people and that stuff. And the easiest way to stop a boulder is before it starts rolling down a hill, right? So you want to stop it right away. So I'd be fighting this guy a little bit more on the line, given that I know that his play style is like this. And then, yeah, I would do that a lot more often. So that way you're not in situations like this where he's running at you and trying to absorb full weight. So that's part of the thing where after he punches, you need to get his hands. As soon as his hands on you, you need to swipe it off of you and then get your arm inside, or both your arms inside, so that way you can cover the distance. Or not cover the distance. Excuse me. You need to get your hands inside, so that way you can stop. You can stop him from trying to push. And I think this is round 2 for you guys. But also, I like this attempt with the back kick, and I like that you threw it at the start of the round, which I thought was good. My only thing against this kind of a back kick is that I would say more of the time he came forward with a cut more often than he did with a punch, and so I would specifically be waiting instead of first movement. I would be looking at, for me, like for back kick, especially if you're trying to time for the rear leg back kick, is I'm looking at specifically this back shoulder. And so if I see this back shoulder going for a kick, or if I see that back shoulder moving for a punch, that's the only time I'd try and throw the back kick. So in my mind, I'm pressuring the way you're doing here, which I think is good, especially because you kind of baited him in for this. So you held your ground a little bit, but he didn't really turn his shoulder. And so if there's no shoulder turn, then there's no kick for me, for the back kick. But I do like that you tried this when you did at the start of the round. That's really good. So good try. You get the gum dry. I mean, not too much you can do about that. Also here, so if you motion and he gives you free real estate, like I said, hold the ground, and then don't be afraid after you take the ground to throw something short. And the reason I'd throw something short for you specifically, and I mean short meaning distance wise, so instead of you lifting your front leg to here, I would say for you to lift your front leg and kick somewhere in this area, because he's going to be sliding forward into it, and so you want to be kicking high and fast in front of him. So that way when he does blitz or close the distance, your foot's coming up to meet him. And so after you do some of this motion, he has a decent defense where he's doing the short stuff against you. But yeah, it's right there would have been a good idea to hold your ground and a flick to the face. It's easy for him to run in. Now you're pushing. I feel like if you started pushing him a little bit more like this in the first round, the score gap here wouldn't have been so big, 3-8. And this is because like you're down points now, and so if you were to do this in the first round, it'd be a lot harder for him to score in general, because now he doesn't know if on his attacks are you going to be blitzing in at him after, or are you going to be running backwards. And so because it's a 50-50, more of a 50-50 guess for him, it's a lot harder for him to score points, because half of the things he's thinking about doing aren't even going to be relevant anymore since you're changing direction on him. So he's on the edge here. You could use that jumping cut you're using before. It's probably going to come from this front leg, so you could also, if you're expecting some you can motion, cancel it, and then go to the face. So motion, that leg comes up, you cancel it, and then you go to the face because you know you're going to cancel. You could motion, you could jump high and then cut, or you can motion, and if you have a really strong cut, this is a good opportunity to strong cut, because if you force him out, you get the +1. I like how you kept. So I don't know if this is you being tired, but I would like to think you kept your cool and you're looking for that. You're trying to get that back kick, because if you did hit the back kick, that would have brought you up considerably. So nice try there. I would say nice try. But once again, you came. His attack started here, right? One, and then you got to close the distance, man. So as he's kicking, you have to learn how to close the distance mid kick, so that way you can block and then get in at the same time. So you're not there just trying to avoid 3 or 4 kicks while moving backwards. One goes by, maybe two goes by, and then you close the distance on him, so that way he doesn't ever generate this kind of momentum against you. I don't know about that call, but But right here, this is I guess this is a good spot. Learning moment. So right here, one, his hand is still on you, so you need to remove that hand by like forcing physically your own hand to push his hand out. Second, you need to get this part of your arm. I wish I could zoom in for you, but like this top part of your arm, this part of your arm, you need to get that here. That needs to be here, and then the rest of your arm is up and back behind his head like that. And so it's, yeah, this part of your arm, this top part, needs to be here, right there, and then the rest of your arm is going to be sticking up like this. And then if he's trying to pull you, if he's still trying to push and you feel like you're losing ground, this arm, you're just going to be squeezing this backwards like this, squeezing it backwards like that. So your arm might look like that, but it's wrapped behind his shoulder. And so what that does, like I said, is locks it down so that way he doesn't have the leverage to push you anymore. I do like that you're kicking as he's going backwards, though. That's a lot of times people I watch don't do that. I think that's good. Keep that up. Also, though, if you are kicking as he's going backwards, one of the things you can do, which caught me a couple of times, and how I catch on my teammates, is as he's going backwards. Oh wait, not there. That's when you start jumping. Boom. Okay, so he's going backwards. Play this slow motion. Is something you can work on too. Is from the, oh nope, I need this half speed, not 2 times speed. As he's going backwards, if you have a left leg, or I developed in this both legs, so that way if you're reading whatever side you're reading, so if you can see the, if you're looking down at the clinch and you can see this knee coming up on this side, you can be exchanging for a left leg to the face on the other side. And so as he's fading backwards, because if he can kick to the body, if you both can kick to the body, that means you can definitely kick to the face. And so if in this situation you're able to use your left leg because he's using his left, if you're able to switch legs or he steps back and you see that, then switch legs immediately and then try and going for his face is something you can do. So if you're still able to, it looks like you guys are still able to have tournaments and practice and stuff. Here where we live now in California, we're not allowed to have training or gather in large groups, and when we go outside we have to wear a face mask. So something you can do is in a clinch, because it seems like you're pretty experienced, so I'm going to give you this drill. When you're in a clinch, have someone step backwards and then try and kick. So in a clinch, have someone step back and then try and kick. And then your job is to, when you see the step back, to switch immediately. So that way, as he's stepping back, he's left leg back, you're left leg back. And then as he's kicking to the body, you're kicking to the face. And kind of practice that drill until it's second nature, until you can see when he steps back, you're exchanging you're exchanging a body kick for a face kick. That's how China beat me in the Asian Games, and I think it's overall a good tactic, especially against someone who likes to fall back like this. So anyway, let's keep going. Almost there. Oh wait, oh, it's 2 times speed. I'm sorry. Whoops. We need normal speed. There's only 30 seconds to this round. Motion. Too much going back, man. Too much going backwards. I could see 1 or 2. Usually my rule of thumb is 2 slides, because internationally, if you slide back 3 times, you get the gum jung, right? So that's something I want to avoid also. You have to learn how to avoid 2 times. So the drill's simple, just 2 sides forward, 1 big slide forward. Or 2 sides, sorry. 2 sides back, 1 big slide forward. 2 sides back, 1 big slide forward. And what that does is, especially after 1 or 2 dodges, a lot of times people start trying to overcommit or overcompensate, and they'll lean in really, really far on that 3rd kick. And on the 3rd kick, that's the one we're cutting it off and going short. So really, kind of an old school distance trap. Nice back. That was a solid one, man. Nice job with that back kick. I don't know if your coach called that or if you did, but that was, boom, that was on the money. It's just really unfortunate it didn't score, but great job. You don't need to run in like that, man. But even for this stuff here, when you're going to offense against this guy, it doesn't seem like you're trying too hard to go forward. And so I think he uses that to his advantage. And so I think in the future, you need to practice occasionally, like a little bit. I'd say a little bit more often. You need to go in a little bit harder, a little bit more committed to these attacks. Let's try trying the time back kick. It's not bad. And I think you get injured here. But yeah. So anyway, man, that's about it. Overall, there's small things to cover, which I already covered here, so I'm not gonna repeat it. But it seems like you're on the right track. And then also, dude, if you're not, this is something I read. If you're like not 14 or fighting in junior, I'm not sure how old you are, but if you're 14 years old or below, like just take these tournaments as experience. Like don't try and pressure yourself. And even if you are 14 to 17, you want to take these like a little bit more seriously, but understand that like most people don't really peak. Some people people have different times of life where they peak. So I would say try and win, yeah, definitely, but don't pressure yourself too much to win. Otherwise, you start worrying about winning or losing, and not really about getting better. And what's more important every match is that you get better and you try and fight your best. Like that's all I did was especially between 15 and like 19 um, before I made collegiate team was all I did was like per every fight I didn't worry about the win or loss too much. Worried about like did I perform better than I did before, or did I fight my best. And if I performed better and I did my best, then like that was a good fight whether or not I lost. A lot of my fights were really good, but I ended up losing in the finals or something like that, and eventually I got to where I am now. So that's my word of advice for you, man. Don't get too hard on yourself for this one fight. It is always frustrating to lose, but kind of just take those key things that your coach says that you see, and then the things that I say, and then add those together. Take what you like, and then start making your own. But you're on the right track, so keep it up, dude.